Joining us now from Colonial Heights, the majority leader of the House of Delegates, Republican Kirk Cox. Mr. Leader, good to have you with us.
John, thanks for having me. Always good to be here.
Now, I have a new appreciation, Mr. Leader, for what you do. I remember we were somewhere about 2 or 3 years ago, and you showed me an app on your phone, which you had this app on your iPhone that was a walk list. And you said that every week you go out and you walk neighborhoods and knock on doors and talk to constituents. And I thought that was pretty neat. And I was like, wow, that's a good way to stay in touch. But having never run for anything like this, now that I'm running for national delegate, there's only like a total universe of 400 people. And this is hard, man. I've worked so hard on this. I have a new appreciation. I don't know how you guys do that, plus have jobs, plus have families. It's tough. I have a new appreciation.
John, you're doing a good job. I got your mail. I got your other stuff. I got your endorsements. You're right there doing all the stuff me and you talked about.
I know.
Good job on your grassroots politics.
I'm trying. Now, I want to get to the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. As you know, Mr. Leader, unprecedented. Every single elected official in the State House in Hampton Roads, both sides of the aisle, signed a letter saying, look, we need this pipeline to come to Hampton Roads to go through Richmond because it's going to bring jobs and economic vitality. Now, if you're in Southeast Virginia, that's where we're based, and you're in the State House, you know how tough it is to get everybody together on the same page. It's like herding cats, all right? So it's never been done, unprecedented. And I just wanted you to comment, Mr. Leader, a little bit about the economic impact that the pipeline, when it finally goes through, you think it's going to have on Virginia?
Well, like a lot of major projects, a lot of studies have been done, and one that I've seen says we'll have $377 million in lower energy costs. And then I think if you look at property taxes along the entire road, it could be up to $30 million. So, you can really see, and then I'm not even talking about the jobs it will create, et cetera. Whenever you have these major energy projects, you're going to have some individual, obviously, areas that object, et cetera. But we have just got to have the ability to look big picture at this stuff. And yourself, if it had not been for, I just sort of laughed during this Obama administration, who was the most to me, pro-energy group, and they really benefited from, obviously energy expansion, et cetera. They got sort of lucky. It certainly wasn't their policies. But we've just got to be very careful if we're not pro-energy in a lot of different areas. It just drops everything that we do. And so then you look in 10 years and you find jobs down, the economy down, et cetera. It is just crucial. So we've just got to have the ability to look big picture. I remember, as I've told you many times, I taught government. I remember doing the French government, not my favorite. But, they where, we have sort of essentially made it impossible. And it's been very, very efficient for them. So we just have to be forward-thinking.
Well, the whole thing is anything that's going to bring jobs to Virginia, I'm in favor of. Anything that's going to bring manufacturing along this corridor is going to be help to us, especially as our state transitions out of the government-dependent economy that we are. We have to transition out. Anything that bring down the cost of energy to working class families, I'm in favor of that. The pipeline does all of those, and I'm not, as you know, Mr. Leader, you come on my show all the time. We don't do a lot of advocacy stuff. There's not that many issues I get behind, but and you've always got the critics out there that say, well, not in my backyard, etc. But hopefully we can get this pipeline in because it has so many positive impacts on so many areas. And I know many people are working in favor of it. And again, I just want to reiterate that when you get a diverse group of legislators like Delegate Spurl, John Cosgrove, Mamie Locke, Louis, all signing the same thing, you got something going on. And that's never been done. I've never seen that. So I think hopefully we can make it happen, sir.
Just a quick short point. We talked, which is the most important thing about consumers, but you talked about manufacturing. Tremendous slice of manufacturing that goes through my area Prince George, Hopewell, et cetera. Their margins are very small. And their energy costs, as you can imagine, are so much a part of their budget. And so when you talk about a big difference in their energy costs, it really does make a difference whether they can be competitive globally or not. I don't think we think of it from that standpoint also.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. I mean, there's no question. It not only brings new jobs in, but then there's other manufacturers that might be looking at an alternative to get cheaper energy and move. That certainly having this pipeline would be an asset. Mr. Leader, let's go to this genderless bathroom argument that is just befuddling to many fathers and mothers like me. The Democrats say that I'm a generational Neanderthal. And maybe I am. I don't get this. I have a daughter. Why would I be comfortable with male genitalia going into my daughter's shower at middle school? Why does this make me some kind of a freak that I don't like this? I mean, have I just missed something here?
I don't think you have. And I think what we've lost more than anything is just common sense. I mean, to me, that just makes no sense. I mean, if you look at most of the localities that have established policies, I mean, they've made accommodations, whether it be balcony restrooms or whether they be, individual restrooms, et cetera. But, I mean, you're exactly right. And, I mean, I think that's what I have so many constituents call me, and they just shake their head. They go, am I that out of touch? And I go, no, you're not. I mean, and for a president then to elevate this to yet another dictate from the federal government, and stretch Title IX, I think, where it never was supposed to go. Mm-hmm. It's just frustrating for a lot of people. I mean, it's just a long series of executive abuses. And so, no, I think most people just, go, on so many issues, we use no common sense as far as anything. We go so overboard. And you're right, with privacy issues, it's just devastating for a lot of people.
All right, now, I really wanted to get you on in this issue because so that our audience knows that Kirk Cox's career, he was a high school teacher, he was a high school baseball coach, a high school basketball coach for a very long time. So he's been in the public school system. He's been in a lot of locker rooms, obviously, in baseball and basketball and the other stuff. If this was going on when you were coaching baseball or basketball and you had to deal with a female just walking through your locker room unclothed with your teenagers in there, I mean, how do you reconcile that?
Well, what will happen, I think, to some degree is that you'll have kids, it's just crazy. You'll have, I don't know how you do that. I mean, a lot of times, especially your focus is, as a coach, you're pretty intense, so your focus is obviously on the game and your practices. So you'll be spending 30% of your time trying to, I guess, come up instead of, practice plans, game planning, how the locker room looks, and how you do that. And that's what I mean. I mean, that's just, I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, so that just defies common sense. And so, you have coaches who are doing all this volunteer time who will have to figure out all these crazy matrices, frankly, to make it, work. I don't know how you make it work, but that's what effort, and I think it's particularly bad, flip it to a girls' locker room, even becomes worse.
I don't get it. It's just crazy. Hopefully the common sense will prevail. I don't know what the answer. I was asking our audience the other day, like, what is the percentage of transgender people out there? Like, what percentage are we talking about? Is it, 5%, 0.5%, 0.1%? No one seems to have a figure for it, but it seems like world's gone mad to many of us. Let's get to William and Mary. I know this is stuck in your throat like a chicken bone. So average increase in tuition for Virginia State University, we understand that. Things go up. You've allocated a lot of dollars. William and Mary comes out 13.5%. What's up with that?
Well, as you say, we put about $300 million of new money into higher ed, and we've been very clear. We think the biggest issue right now is affordability. And we had language in the House budget that said any more than 3% increase, you got to go to the governor. The Senate disagreed with that. We ended up in a big controversy over that. Ended up with you need to try to hold it down, which I wasn't pleased with. We actually talked to every college president and said we expect the increase not to go over 3%. From our perspective, kids can no longer afford this, these double-digit increases. And if we're going to put money in, and you're going to have double-digit increases, then really the money we put in has no effect on what you're doing.
Right.
And it was disturbing. I mean, if you look, for William and Mary right now, they've gone from their outgoing class costing $9,400, and this is just in tuition and mandatory general fees. This is not all your athletic fees, et cetera. The new rate for the class coming in will be $15,810. And so, John, I have this wonderful couple that sit behind me in Sunday school whose, daughter wants to go to William and Mary. I think they're still going to go, but they can't afford that. They're middle class. They don't get, a lot of the aid, and, so they're suddenly looking from the only school she wants to go to. They're looking at a $6,000 increase, essentially, 68% difference over those years. And, UVA, is like 12.5. If you saw the community colleges recently, yesterday, I think announced they're going up, a little bit over 2%. And so it's just making college unaffordable. The model has got to be fixed. I mean, we just cannot sustain these double-digit increases.
So when you had dialogue with the decision makers at William and Mary and you question why they have to go up 13.5% after you've already given the schools a plural $300 million out of the General Assembly budget, what was their answer?
Well, their answer is they have the William and Mary Promise, which is a bit complicated, but they've done this 4-year tuition reset where they've gone up 20%, 19%, 13%, 12%. And the theory is then you have known tuition that stays basically the same, even though it's adjusted for CPI, you're 4 years in. And so they would tell you that back in November, they set the 4th-year reset. And our claim is, well, we since then, we've given you substantially more money, and that instead of spending all that money, why didn't you lower your tuition? I mean, to make it more affordable. And what they did was they took the money and spent it on everything from technology to all kinds of different things. And I think our feeling was when you had the money, and it's now April, you're setting your final tuition, you certainly were willing to spend the money. Why weren't you willing to lower the tuition? If they would have kept the tuition even the same as last year, they would still had additional money. Maybe not as much as they wanted, but, and I just think that sensitivity to parents, et cetera. The problem, John, is that if you are in the lower 30 percentile, you get a lot of financial aid. Obviously, if you're in the 70 to 100 percentile, family's pretty wealthy. But those middle-class parents, I mean, how would you like, and remember, you still got to pay almost equally all but on the non-academic side. So how would you like to try to pay that increase? I mean, for a lot of parents, I just think it takes William and Mary out of play. I mean, when you're looking at other institutions at 10 or 11 and William and Mary at 15, I mean, it just takes them out of play. And that's unfortunate for the kids that really want to go there.
Well, it is, because if you're in America's middle class right now or part of the working class, there's only so much money at the end of the day. And there's not you can't put your hand in the jar's empty. And so you got to make tough choices and send your child somewhere else, even though that's their preferred school, because the increase is not reasonable. And I think that's a real issue. And I appreciate you fighting for that. We're out of time. When we have you back next week, we're going to go over Terry McAuliffe's, the other edict he's got, the reinstitute 200,000 felons, but we're out of time right now. I want to thank the majority leader of the House of Delegates of Virginia, Republican Kirk Cox, for being with us. Sir, we'll see you on Saturday. Always appreciate your being with us, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Take care.